Hello everyone and welcome to the last assignment. Good job everybody so far, and I hope you all are well and you're feeling healthy. And I also hope you enjoyed some regular expressions in the last assignment. It's good to know. This week we're gonna create a bit of a bigger bash script. It's a maze runner, and the script you're going to create is going to work as a client for a server. The server is already complete. It's written in Node.js, so we have to install that in our virtual machine. The server has a REST API. It's a list of functions and routes that you are allowed to use. We're going to look at each one of them. Okay, so the maze, it's a game. It's a text-based game. For now, there are 2 maps you can choose from. And you enter a room, and then you can go in some direction. Then you can go to the next room, and from that room you can go in other directions. And you're gonna make your way all the way to the end. And in some rooms, some directions are blocked, so you can go there. Yeah, you get the idea. It's not so complicated. Okay, you're gonna build a client in Bash according to the requirement specification. This first cinema shows how it can look when you're done. You don't have to do it exactly the same, but use it as a reference if you are unsure on how it should look. Okay, make sure you use the extension .bash. Nothing weird about that. There are no exercise. Instead, it's a bit larger script. So, on to the task. The server is finished. You have it in your example folder, and I'm gonna show you further down how we copy it and how we get it up and running. First, we have to install curl, because we're gonna curl the server. The server is running on localhost at port 1337, and we use curl in our bash script or terminal to communicate with the server. I think it's already installed on most systems. But first of all, we update the package lists. Then we install curl. If we have it installed, the system just tells you that. Then we make our way to our home folder. Then we use curl, and we get the file from some place online. It's the latest. It's the version 10 something. And then we call it node source setup.sh. Okay, then we have a file called this, rip. Then we use bash to execute it. You can see it's .sh. It's another type of scripting language, a shell script. But we can use bash to install it, and to open it. Then we install it with our package manager, and then we check the version. Okay, I have it installed already. Yep. If this for some reason doesn't work, just make a Google Node.js Debian, and you should get perhaps the same, or perhaps these days it's just it's up to date, so you can just do this one. I don't know. Try it. I have faith that you're gonna solve it. We also need npm. It comes along when we install Node.js. It's the package manager for Node.js, like we have apt in Debian. Here we have npm in JavaScript. Okay, the server API we're gonna look at, so I open it here for now. Get acquainted with the server's API. Okay, we do it right away. We get responses from the server. Each time we call a route, we get the response. And it's the responses we're gonna work with. We're gonna save it to a file and we're gonna do some picking and get the information we want. And we're gonna present the information to the user who enters a new command. And we use new routes and we get new responses, etc. So, default response type is JSON. JavaScript object notation. JSON looks like this. And we have, it's a key value structure. So we have the key text with a value, new game initialized. The key game ID with a value of some numbers. Okay, so this API shows you which routes you can use and how you use them. I got a tip. Tip. You should preferably use comma separated values instead of JSON. And if you want to do that, to just add the question mark, then type equals CSV in your URL. This is a URL, and we have different parts. This don't have any get parameters, but a get parameter always look like this. If you make a Google search, then you get this at the end. Perhaps it's question mark search equals, and then you have whatever you searched for. It's a get parameter. Okay, so when we call the route localhost : 1337, we have an example call. It's just a slash. We initialize the maze and generates a new game ID. Okay. Then we have parameters. We have the name, type, it's not required, and we have a value, CSV. And when we call the route, we get this as a response. Let's do it at the same time. We pause the API, and then we go down so we can copy it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna test the server because we have it in our example folder. So we'll take this row, I copy it. It says here, go to the course repo. Okay. Oh, not VF. Now I am in the course repo. I paste it and I press enter. Now, when I look in the maze folder, I have the server files. The API MD is the one we are looking at online. We have index.js. It's the only file you have to worry about in here, because that server file uses the maps folder and the maze and router.js. But to be able to show you properly, let's do some Tmax. It's a session handler for the terminal. I start server node index.js. And this is why I created another terminal session, because now I lock this one. You can also just open another terminal. I want it a little bit bigger. And I want this to be bigger. Something like, yeah, that's okay. Okay, the server is listening on the port 1337. Not URL. What did I do now? Didn't I just do this? What did I do now? I think it's already running. lsoff is a command you can run to check everything that runs on specific ports. I think the error message here higher up says that the ports is already in use. I believe it's like this. No, then it's an I. Here we go. We got a process ID. The node server that I created before is listening. And that's why I couldn't run it again, because the port is occupied. Then I can kill it. 8033 is the ID. And now I don't have anything running on that port. Some side information. Then I can start it again. And perhaps I don't break it this time. We use curl to talk to the server. The server is to be found at localhost:1337. And this is the same as calling the slash, this route. And I suggest you use CSV, because if we just curl, do like this so we can see. Each time you call the base route, you get a new game ID, and a new game is initialized. So you have to save the game ID to a file, because we're going to use that ID in almost all the calls to the server. Okay, this is a JSON response, as you can see here. If we add the get parameter type with the value CSV, we get it this way instead. Perhaps I don't need echo now. Great. It's 2 rows. We got the keys, text, and game ID. We have the value, new game initialized, and the current game ID. And you can save it to a file. Like that. And now we can see we get some very not so pleasant information. It's from curl. And we can remove it by adding the -s for silent. And then we don't get anything at all. Up here in the server we can see which IP who's making the calls and the response the client is getting. Okay, now we get the gameid.txt, cat game ID, and it looks like the response. It is the response. And I said you have to save the game ID, and we can, if we think back to the labs in assignment 2, I think we used some head, tail, perhaps some cut with delimiters. We have the game ID on the last row and field 2 if we talk about cut. So I can get a hold of it by Either I do this from the file or directly in the curl. I can pipe this one as well instead of redirecting it to a file. Tail, the last row, then I get this one, and it's the field number 2. Cat with a delimiter, comma separated, as we can see here. Pop, pop. Minus F2. Then I get only the game ID. Save that to a file somewhere, or do whatever you want, but you have to keep it because we're gonna reuse it. Okay, there we should have the text. I want you to present this text because there are information in all of the rooms, and present it to the user so the user knows what's happening. So when you use the script and you call this route, give the user this information. Okay. Let's go on with the API. After the example, we get some parameters. And then we can see its type, it's not required, and example value is CSV. That we have looked at. The next one, it's /map. It returns a list of all available maps. Okay, you need to call this before you can select the map. And if we look at the exercise here, the first part is the bash script. In it, we call the route. We get the game ID, we save it to a file. And the next, we send maps. And then the script is gonna call this one. Okay? /map. Nothing more. We can use type CSV here as well. We can use it on every route. So I don't have to mention this further. There are only 2 maps. Maze of Doom is pretty big. Small maze.json, you just move down twice and then you're finished. It's a very small maze. But the script is going to work with whichever map you load. So let's try this. Get map. We have our curl. Map. And if I just code it like this, I get JSON. And if I add this one, I get it nicely, comma separated on rows. Okay, use this information, present it to the user. Look at a cinema. Well, here perhaps. Here's how it may look when you are done. Yeah, you can look here, get some inspiration. Okay, after we have presented the maps, we're gonna select the map. And when we have this, you can see it's a number. When we have this, it says we're gonna change it for something else. And we're gonna change it for a number. 0 or 1. When we have presented the maps, we're gonna load a map as the current maze. And it's this one, select map. We call this route. It's a colon. We're gonna change it, and you can see it's the game ID. It's your current game ID, not the one in the example. Your game ID. /map/:map. And we change map for Maze of Doom or small maze. With or without the file ending JSON. So let's say we wanna select the small maze. Get, and we have game ID. Not map. We're gonna have the game ID, and the game ID is Oh, I have to look at it. Cat game ID 26139. 26139. You can see this is much easier if you have it in a file and you load it directly. But I'm not gonna show you everything. Okay, game ID done. /map. I can do that. /map. And then :map. Okay, small maze. Small maze. Okay, boom. Then I get the text, new map selected. Yeah, that's fine. I want you to present this to the user. Next one. Enter the maze and get the content of the first room. The game ID again, /maze. And this is connected to the next one here. Don't change these, use these. Enter. Then we're gonna call this one, game ID maze. So we have game ID maze. Boom. Then I get the information of the first room. And this, you get this response in all the rooms you enter. And the structure is the same on all the rooms. So we have room ID is ID 0. The description, entry. West, hyphen. East is a hyphen. South is a 1. North is a hyphen. This means, if we can look at it in JSON format here. The room ID is the ID of the room we are currently in. I want you to give the user this information. Like you're in a dark room and you feel 2 doors. You have it in description key. Then you have directions, and west, it's a no-go. You can't go west from here. You can go east, then you're gonna end up in room ID 1. You can go south, then you are gonna end up in room ID 3. And you can't go north from here. Present this to the user. A tip, a hint. Yeah. It's always the same structure here. So perhaps create a function that takes the file, because preferably you're saving this to a file, and you give the user, you are in room ID, and then you pop out the description, and then you can go, and here you can do whatever you want. If you're lazy, just give them all of these and all of these. It's not how you get the highest of grades, but it's working. You're gonna pass. But it's more fun, both for me or the one who's correcting the assignment, and for yourself, if you work with these and make a nicer presentation. Perhaps you can go south or something like that. And a tip is to loop. You have it in tail 1, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 to 6. Loop a sequence, and then you can just check if each value is a hyphen. If it's not, add it to a nice echo or something like that. Okay. This is how it looks. Next one is info. Bash info, show information about the room. Show the information. And here is the response. It's the same as when you enter a room. It's the same response. You get it again. That's why save this to a file. When you call info, just give them this or something. You can also use this one. And this is how you move around. Game ID, maze, and then room ID and a direction. It may look like this. I don't think I have to go through everything here. Reuse the game ID. It's connected to these. Go north, go south, go east, go west. And here you can have a, I don't know what, is it called a tip? Tips? A hint. Create a function, perhaps called go, that takes these 4 arguments. Is neither. So if the direction is supported, we go to a new room, and it's this one. And then you just run along until you find the room description that says you have found the exit or something like that. You don't have to automatically close the script or the game. Just you're done. Okay, so the server API, the first part of the assignment, create this script. Here you can see, use it as a reference, how it may look. And then part 2, this is optional. If you're going for an A, do this as well. Perhaps you have to restructure a bit, or if you have this in mind when you start the assignment, perhaps you don't have to do so much. But if you pass the command loop to the script, it's gonna look like this. I'm not gonna show you this in the video. You can click here yourselves. You should start a game loop. Yeah. Enough said about that. Validate it and don't forget to publish. Then you're done. I think I got everything you need to know to get started. Use curl, save to a file. Preferably use type CSV. Use the API, take one step at a time. And remember to use your own ID. You get a new ID each time you call the root. It's because there should be possible to be multiple players. They get each of their own maps connected to the game ID. Yeah. Let me know if you wonder anything on Discord. And good luck to all of you. Yeah. Stay safe. Bye bye.